So when you're talking about a film, a quote unquote classic film like Space Jam, and you're comparing it to the new sequel that just came out and arrived in theaters and on HBO Max, there are going to be, in my opinion, unfair comparisons between the two, but also fair comparisons because of how much this movie means to so many people in my age group. Let me start off with getting some Merrick opinions out of the way here. I think that LeBron is actually a better actor than Michael Jordan. I know, God forbid. Now, just to be clear, MJ is my favorite NBA player of all time. I love the Flash, and I love the ads and the commercialism. And obviously, 6 championships, you can't go wrong, especially watching all of that play out in the Last Dance documentary, which I highly recommend viewing. That informed my opinion even further that MJ is just my favorite. I'm not even necessarily going to say best, but he is my favorite. But with LeBron James in this movie, I actually felt that he was able to truly interact with the animated characters with much more ease than what MJ had. You'll notice that in the first film, some of the shots that he has where he's talking to them are very not monotone, but they feel kind of empty. You would think that MJ would be in disbelief of what am I doing in the world of Looney Tunes, but he's just like, it's just another day at the office for me. Everything in my life is weird, and that was before he won 3 more championships. But with LeBron, it feels there's at least a sense of curiosity with how did I get here? Why am I talking to you people? But also freaking out that he's kind of talking to these characters that he grew up with. You know, he interacts with Bugs Bunny like, oh my God, I'm meeting Bugs Bunny. So I appreciate that from an actor's perspective. And with that, I'll cut right to the chase. I think the IP movie, the intellectual property cluster movie genre is getting really old really quickly. There's so it feels like there's so little substance. We're just trying to punch in every single Easter egg and reference we can think of, but it definitely is starting to feel like it might be taking away from the story. Some movies I feel do it well. Say Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet. That felt very natural, considering how many properties they had in Disney's arsenal and what they were able to do with them, especially the Disney princess sequence. All of that I think was just absolutely wonderful to see, and I hope we get a separate movie on that. And it obviously works with the Lego movie. It makes perfect sense, especially since kids of all ages, when they're playing with the Legos, they usually do have their different franchise characters interact. So it feels natural. But then you get to stuff like Ready Player One and even the Lego Batman movie. And of course, I've mentioned these 3 examples as a whole, these 2 movies and then Space Jam 2, which was upcoming at the time. And it just felt like we have the tools to put all of this stuff together, but it begs the question, do we need to put all this stuff together? Granted, Ready Player One, I understand that that separate IPs play into the story heavily, but it just kind of feels like this is an ongoing thing with Warner Brothers specifically now, where a lot of movies are just going to be a mishmash of IP properties where it truly doesn't, we don't need to make anything new. We can just continually shove everything that you knew that we had in your face. So I kind of worry about Warner Brothers' state of the union, if you will. And with all of these IP mixes and matches, I feel like it took away from the actual stars of the movie being the Looney Tunes characters. Bugs Bunny obviously gets the most amount of time here, but even for a character like Daffy Duck or someone who's most notable with the Space Jam franchise, Lola Bunny, considering even that Zendaya is the voice of said character, it just feels like they all kind of take a back seat to everything that occurs. I mean, hell, when we meet Lola, she's in a Wonder Woman comic training for the Amazonian races. So, or rather, participating in them. And why can't Lola stand on her own? Do we need Wonder Woman backing her up? Or even just, mentioning there's like within this server verse that the plot revolves around in, because it's all meant to be digital and stuff, like having a planet devoted to Game of Thrones and Harry Potter and The Matrix and even Casablanca. It feels like a lot. I can hear Barney laughing on the side. It's great. It all feels very cluttered very quickly, especially when you're being absolutely blatant with this kind of stuff. Considering that other films in your uh, in your movie lot have already done this kind of thing. And so there's something positive with this movie. Getting to that, I like that this movie actually had a message of sorts. That's a major difference between LeBron and MJ. MJ is very not self-centered, but very introverted. He's very in himself, and I don't mean that in necessarily a maniacal way, but just he's never quite external. He's learned to be philanthropic. Is that the word? Yeah, philanthropic and share with other people now, but he was never about that when he was playing the game, as opposed to LeBron, who's been very open about trying to build people up and bring his friends from Akron, Ohio up with him. He even built a whole entire school in his hometown to give kids hope and an opportunity to succeed. He's very of the people. And it's not to say that one way is more right than the other, but these movies are very reflective of both of their ideologies while they are players in the NBA. With other characters in the movie, such as Algae Rhythm, crafty, that Don Cheadle plays in the movie, I thought it was very fun to see him in such a free role, especially considering that it's far different than, for his War Machine role, for example, in Marvel Studios roles. I do think some of the dialogue was a bit clunky for him, and I think he works through what he has, but there are some moments where he's just clearly having fun, either with LeBron or LeBron's son in the movie, and he's going off, and I think it's great. So he's a welcome addition to the cast. And do I think that he is better than Swackhammer, the original villain from Space Jam 1? It's tough to say. Danny DeVito is just such a classic voice, and that animated role fits Danny DeVito so much. So I don't not want to necessarily say that one was better than the other. It's just there are very different roles in comparison, because obviously you're going to break down and compare everything between the two movies. So I'm not necessarily going with that villain-wise. I like both. Out of all the actors, the human actors that participate in Space Jam: A New Legacy, I actually think Ernie Johnson was the best actor out of everyone. The announcer from the NBA on TNT, I think he was the most realistic in his performance of, I'm sitting here at this game, we're talking about all of this. If LeBron loses, we're all going to stay here forever. And just not completely needing to freak out at everything going on, but just wondering, are we playing by the rules of basketball? And it's a very heartwarming performance, and I think he wins the Best Actor award for this movie, personally. Now, with LeBron as a person, he's made it very clear. He does not actually want to be in MJ's shadow. He wants to break out of it in the same way that Tom Brady had wanted to break out of Joe Montana's shadow after a certain while of playing in the NFL. And eventually, obviously, he did. 7 championships, can't go wrong. And for LeBron, you have that opportunity to do that, to escape that shadow by winning on the court, going out there, breaking records and trying to win more championships to the best of your ability. You're still playing at a vastly strong level, stronger than most at age 37. But I will say that when you sign on for a Space Jam movie, you can't help but involve comparisons between a film's predecessor and you, like no matter how hard you try. And arguably LeBron is his own man based on everything that he's done off the court. But it's when you become part of this, something that means so much to many people of my age, you're going to walk into it no matter how hard you try to write the script and make it a standalone sequel as opposed to a direct sequel, almost taking no references from the first movie, which is fine. We had a feeling that was going to be the case, but in some ways it still kind of feels like a slap in the face in some ways to what we grew up with that. So which movie do I ultimately prefer? It's kind of obvious at this point. I do go with the OG version simply because of Wayne Knight and Bill Murray and the supporting NBA players. I think they're actually the charm of the first movie, kind of excluding the Looney Tunes characters. And when you create a sequel, a 25-year afterwards sequel. When the player, when you have a bunch of Looney Tunes characters and then IP characters from Warner Brothers on top of having NBA and WNBA players involved in this as well as a villain, and you're including in LeBron's family, you have all of these characters, and it can't help but feel like things kind of fall flat to a certain degree. There's a bunch of screen time that's missing from characters that would probably benefit from it. Compare that to the original movie, where the only people that were willing to sign on for Space Jam were the NBA players, Charles Barkley and the rest of them. Nobody else thought this project would even work. Bill Murray only was featured in the basketball game at the end of the first movie because he liked the footage that he was seeing of integrating the animated characters along with MJ. So that was kind of a freak moment accidentally, but that's how we got such a fun moment between Bill Murray and Michael Jordan at the end of the game. The Looney Tunes characters themselves had a bunch of great moments that I genuinely was laughing at, things that I was not expecting, how they were able to draw the characters and then have them, rework into specific positions or poses or whatever. And just those sight gags, I enjoyed them. I thought they were well done and witty enough in today's world of animation. But unfortunately, it doesn't matter when you have everything kind of all just pounce on top of each other. It just doesn't land right. Nostalgia feels nice until someone decides to crack open that bottle of nostalgia and just open up truth to it. The first movie is certainly not perfect. The criticisms were fair back in the day when that movie came out, just like they are today as this movie has come out. The first film was a cinematic achievement, in my humble opinion, by producer Ivan Reitman, who is the leader of the Ghostbusters franchise, and director Joe Pytka, who directed, in my mind most notably, Michael Jackson's The Way You Make Me Feel music video, as well as his Dirty Diana video, on top of other projects that he's done. The sequel should have been about LeBron and the Looney Tunes, not LeBron and yet another Warner Brothers commercial and all the IP properties that they own that you love. It falls a little flat. It feels hollow to some degree. Do I think that this film will resonate with kids being the target audience? Yes. But there's a reason why people my age were more excited about Space Jam than those in their target demographic. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to comment down below. And of course, as always, make sure that you tune in to Nights at the Dirty Table every Friday live at 5, only on the Zenden Studios Twitch channel.
Whoa! Welcome to the end of the Knights of the Dirty Table video that you just watched. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to our channel, like our video, share with all your friends, and catch our live stream every Friday live at 5, only on the Zenden Studios Twitch channel. I gotta go wander off into space. See ya! Whoa! Whoa!